Hi, I'm Jessica.
I'm Emmalynn.
And we are finally back after a slight hiatus. We've had a lot of life happening around here. Our house has been fully under construction for the last month plus. Actually, it's been under construction since November, but fully under construction since last month. We had to make a cross the country trip for a funeral. Our dog almost died. It's not funny, but it's been a lot in the last month, but we are happy to be back in reading.
Kind of.
We have had a little more time lately, but our April wrap-up is pretty short and definitely much shorter than we normally strive for, but hopefully this video will be too. So, you can go ahead and get started because I think you have one more than I do.
Okay. My first book I read is The Magician's Daughter by H.G. Perry. And I feel like I read this a lifetime ago.
Yeah. A lot of life has happened in between.
If you watch Carrie Can Read, pretty much everything she said about this book in her wrap-up, I agree with. I gave this book 4 stars. This follows Biddy. I feel like that's not her real name, but this follows Biddy, who lives on this Irish island with kind of her caretaker, Rowan. He is
we love a Rowan.
her guardian. She believes herself to be an orphan, and he kind of has essentially a Disney sidekick. Okay, this little animal that can turn into different things.
Like a familiar?
Yes, that's what they call it. Oh my gosh, thank you. But he's normally a rabbit.
Which I just noticed
see here.
There was a rabbit on the cover and the spine.
Yes. And
so
Rowan can turn into a bird. And this is kind of just a cozy fantasy mystery. The one thing I disagree with that Carrie said is she felt like we didn't find things out very quickly, but I kind of like the aspect of finding things out along with Biddy. I think that kind of added to the story and was a different perspective than normal. But I do see how that is kind of repetitive in some fantasy books. But overall, a cozy spring read. I would recommend if you like magical realism, and just the descriptions of the island alone were beautiful.
Okay, the first book I'm going to talk about is Half a Soul, which I felt like I read years ago, but it was just a month ago. And that is by Olivia Atwater. So that's the first book in a series called The Regency Fairy Tales. And this book follows a girl named Dora who is cursed with half a soul. Now, what does half a soul mean, you might ask? Well, it's basically like she finds herself in situations where she just has like no sense of self-awareness or can't read a room. Do you know any people like that? Because I do. But she like can't get embarrassed. She doesn't know when she's saying things that like maybe make people feel uncomfortable. Like she doesn't even have like the sense or awareness to be afraid or like that she's in a dangerous situation. But anyway, she lives with her aunt and her cousin. Her aunt kind of treats her like a burden, but she's really close with her cousin. And Dora is kind of getting older, and this is set obviously during like Regency time, so, you know, their whole life revolves around trying to find an eligible bachelor, and Dora is getting older, but it's like time for her cousin to come like out in the season or whatever, and so they go to London for that reason to stay with like another wealthy family. And they come across these 2 young gentlemen, and one of them is like super weird also, but he's very intrigued by Dora and like her situation or like what's happened to her, and so he kind of like wants to make it his mission to fix her. But, like, in doing that, they kind of become friends, and they find themselves, like, solving this mystery, and there's some fae elements sprinkled in, and it was just a really good time. It was pretty slow at first, but I would say that this book it reminded me a lot of Ella Enchanted, which Emmalynn used to love when she was little, and she called it Ella Pharrell. But it had, I don't know, it just gave me, like, those vibes because she was cursed and she couldn't help a lot of the things that she did. But it was just a really sweet, cozy mystery with elements of fantasy, and I gave it 4 stars.
Okay, my next book I don't have physically, and that is An Improper Agreement by Audra Wells. And I gave this book 4 stars. This is kind of an enemies to lovers tale. Basically, think Mia and Nicholas from Princess Diaries 2 and everything you wanted to happen. This literally, the book starts out at a fountain. Okay?
Oh, and the covers too.
In a maze. Yes, the cover is. I could just put it on the screen. I don't know what I'm thinking. This is so overexposed. But they kind of are immediately rivals. She's like, what are you doing? Who do you think you are? Because he is just higher in society in his title and everything. And so they make a kind of a game to where, like, whoever gets the highest rated match by the end of the season wins. And then, you know, what happens from there, I'm sure. But this is a Kindle Unlimited book. It was a clean romance, and it was just everything I was looking for. I read this on the plane.
Like, in the mood for something Regency.
Something light that I don't have to focus too much on, because this is an adult fantasy, and this took me a while to read.
Meaty, weighty.
Yes, and the writing was too. So something fluffy, spring, something you haven't heard of before, I'm sure. I would totally recommend it.
Okay. So the next book I read, I have some mixed feelings on. It is called The Family Bones by L. Marr, and we were sent this book by the publishing company. It follows a girl named Olivia who is going to college to get her PhD in psychology, and she wants to specialize in specifically, like, studying psychopaths because she comes from a family of psychopaths. So she's kind of, like, wanting to not just, like, redeem herself and kind of, like, help herself understand her family, but also, I don't know, like, try to figure out how to fix people like her family. And, like, her family has a history of murder and, like, theft and arsony and, like, just all of these things. And then her mom doesn't really have anything to do with her. So that side of the family is her dad's family. Her mom doesn't have anything to do with them anymore. But one day Olivia gets an invitation for their family reunion, and her mom, like, actually encourages her to go, which I never really understood. But the family reunion is, like, at this lodge, and one of the family members, like, rented it all out because he's, like, this renowned surgeon. And so they go there, and just, like, right from the beginning, and Olivia takes her fiance, right from the beginning, just, like, things start happening. Like, people are being killed off, like all these sinister things are happening. And then there's, like, this flood that comes that causes a landslide, and so they can't leave, which I'm like, I don't know, just, like, the premise was interesting to me of her being, like, a psychology student and studying psychopaths because she came from a family of psychopaths. Like, family dynamics are very intriguing to me, but it's just like, if you knew your family was full of psychopaths, why would you go to a family reunion where they're all at one place? Like, that just seems like a really stupid idea. And, like, people are being killed off and you're just staying there, like, waiting to be picked off. I don't know. Like, And then there was like this other element. So this lady is a podcaster who studies, or who has a podcast about like true crime. And then she is like trying to find this missing Asian girl because she's Asian herself. And so like their stories kind of like mesh at the end. But it didn't make sense. I mean, it made sense, but I don't know. It was poorly executed. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So there were some things I thought were interesting, but overall I was just like, it's alright. I give it 3 stars. And honestly, like thinking about it, I might lower it to 2.5. So.
Okay. My next book is Miss Newberry's List by Megan Walker. And I first heard about this book from Desi at Darling Desi, and she has all the best Regency romance recs. And this book, I rated 5 stars.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that.
I don't know if it was the timing, but that doesn't matter.
You just really needed
to
pick me up.
I'm a mood reader, okay? So how I rate a book is gonna be dependent on how I feel about it. My emotional attachment to it. Now, if it's horrible writing, yeah, I'm not going to like it. But it's a contemporary book. It wasn't trashy.
Contemporary.
Well, it's not a fantasy. My bad. It's a historical fiction. But, you know, it wasn't trashy. I can't stand, like, contemporary books that reference, like, TikTok and stuff. That hurts my soul. Anyways, so I'd say it is a good book. Is it a 5-star romance? I don't know. But I thought it was great. And this follows Rosalind, and she made a list when she was young with her aunt of all the things she wanted to do before she got married. Now she's in an arranged marriage with the Duke of Marlowe, and she only has met him twice. And there's only a few weeks until they get married, so she feels that now is the time. And her next door neighbor is her best friend. Her best friend's cousin is in town. And so the 3 of them go out and accomplish this list together, and they travel, and it's very entertaining because
it's like kind of like a bucket list?
Yeah. Oh. So like number 1 is like learn how to swim, and she like almost drowns because she goes by herself to swim for the first time. Oh. So, of course, he goes and finds her, and he teaches her how to fight and defend herself, and the Duke is, like, this old guy that's like, if you don't marry me, I'm going to take your money, and, you know. It was a very entertaining, classic Regency vibes.
Sounds like a good time.
It was a good time. It was better than just the, you know, pining, because they actually had a friendship. But, yeah. I love this book.
And they had fun together,
so great.
It sounds like.
Yes. It was just entertaining. It wasn't like, okay, let's hurry up. I was never bored. And it had great friendship dynamics, great family dynamics. All around, 10 out of 10 for me.
Okay. Next book I read was Rin and Rising, a 3rd book in the Shadow and Bone trilogy. And this book, I don't think I anticipated. I liked this series fine, but the end of this book I loved. Like, I loved it. The way that it ended, the way that the trilogy wrapped up, the like I don't know if it was a epilogue necessarily, but it was like written after the time when all the other things were happening, so a little bit of like a future glimpse, I guess. I loved it. I loved it so much. Like, when it was the last page...
But did you like it?
Yeah, I liked it. When it was like the last page and I closed the book, I was like satisfied, you know? Like, you never know if when a series ends, if you're gonna be like, that wasn't really what I hoped for. It like left me wanting for more, or like you're disappointed with the way the author ended it. But I loved it so much. So I gave it 4 stars, but I think I would round it up to 4.5.
I gave it 3.
Really?
I just
really
don't like
ending.
Alina.
I don't either.
That's literally it.
I don't either. I honestly think her and Mal both are annoying. Yeah. But I just was content. And
That's good.
Yeah, I appreciated the way the story was wrapped up, and I immediately started Six of Crows after.
Which, do you think that's better?
Oh, yes. Oh,
Worth
yes.
the hype?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I love it. Talk about that in our next video, because I actually just finished that a few days ago, so it'll be in my May wrap-up. But yeah, I won't go too much into the plot. I mean, you can't really do that because it's the third book in a trilogy. But I just thought it all ended very nicely and clean. Well done, Leigh Bardugo.
Okay, my next book is The House Witch by this person.
This person?
I don't know how to pronounce their name.
It's like Delimhawk. They have like they're like a one name author.
Yeah, I don't know if it's
their last name or their first
I have
name?
no idea.
It looks like Delimhawk.
Yeah, I'm guessing
Delimhawk.
Sorry.
You have to when you say it.
Right. Rock. Anyways, I just found this book in a local bookstore, and I looked it up and saw it was on Kindle Unlimited, and I was like, I'll still pay for it.
Yeah, and it was kind of pricey. It was like the cover price for sure. But it is really cute.
But I just love the cover.
It's very cozy, and it has a little cat on the
Look
back.
how cute she is.
What a fall vibe, honestly.
Yes. So I read it this spring. But it was fall weather here. Anyways.
Always.
I'm tired. Obviously.
Yeah, what's this about? I don't even know.
Follows Finley Ashwin. I'm assuming is how you pronounce his name. And he is the
I thought you were going to say she.
No.
Oh.
Of the royal household. And that is pretty much the premise. Like, there is this long thing, but I feel like that is a spoiler because this is a very long synopsis. And we kind of just follow him in his everyday life being the cook in the palace, the things he deals with, how he deals with the knights and their attitude towards women, and he kind of takes in those women, but then eventually becomes friends with those knights. Like, it was a very relationally focused book, and I did like it a lot. I think it would have been better if I would have read something alongside it, because this is...
It's pretty thick.
Yeah, it's 460 something pages.
But they're big
But
pages.
they're big.
And the font is
tiny.
Yeah, the
like,
font is pretty small.
So small. I read this on my Kindle because I just couldn't lay down and read this. But there is a bit of a sprinkle of romance in this, but obviously he's a witch. And so we explored that.
Are boys witches?
In this world, yes.
Interesting.
Mages develop powers by learning. Witches are people born with magic.
Okay.
And it was really good.
And there's more, right?
Yes.
There's 3, I think.
So far, there is 3, I believe, and I think there might be a spin-off. But it's just, the cover. The ultimate cozy fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
It did get a little,
slow
at times, for sure, because it is a bit repetitive. But nonetheless, I loved it. I loved all the characters so much, and it was just so cute.
Speaking of character-driven books, natural segue transition, I reread At Home in Mitford by Jan Karon. Now, I read this book, I think I was pregnant with Emmalynn when I read it, so over 17 years ago. But this book just follows a elderly pastor of a church in a little village called Mitford, which is actually, I'm pretty sure it's set in North Carolina. So there's a lot of, southern elements sprinkled in, southern culture, southern food, southern language, that kind of thing. But it's just very heavily character-driven. So each chapter is about, a different character that lives in the village. And it's just mainly following Father Tim and his caring and keeping of the people in the church, his parishioners, just his life in ministering to them and all the things that comes with that. So it's just very like I said, very character driven. It's very much about his relationship with his parishioners. It's super sweet and super cute and cozy, but it's not heavily plot driven. There actually was, and I forgot about it reading it the second time, but there's several mysteries in the book that the town members have to solve. I don't know, there's like some heavier topics like death and like life-threatening illnesses and those kinds of things too, but it's all dealt with in a very like empathetic, what's the word?
Meaningful, respectful.
I don't know. Yes, respectful. Like it's not like, yeah, it's
not surface level.
Yes, it's very, I don't know, just like real life, but meaningful at the same time. And there are a ton of books in this series. I can't even remember. I feel like there's 10.
Oh my.
I mean, and then there's like kind of a spin-off. Yeah, I think there's 9 or 10. But it's something you could like read the first one, take a break from, and come right back to it. It's not like it doesn't end on a cliffhanger or anything like that. But yeah, it was super sweet. I really enjoyed it even the second time through, and I give it 4 stars.
Okay, my last and final book is Graceland by Kristen Cashore. Love of my life. This is my OG stan couple, okay? Katza and Poe were everything to me before Katniss and Peeta were everything to me. They are on the same level. I think they are very similar personality-wise, and you know these books probably came out at the same time. Details. Minor details. But this follows Katza, and she is what we call a Graceling, which means a type of person with a hyper-specific skill that they're, like, perfect at or whatever. So she is a graced fighter, and she is the niece to the king, and he definitely abuses her power, uses her as almost an assassin, a spy, etc.
I didn't remember that she was the niece. I forgot about that.
Because he doesn't treat her like family.
That's true.
One day, she's on her little mission. She's like, who is that boy with one silver eye and one gold eye? Oh well. And then, you know, they meet again. There's a big mystery going on with this guy is kidnapped. Who kidnapped him? Why? People have secret graces that they somehow managed to hide. And so we just kind of followed that. And this is a series.
Isn't it like if they have a grace too, the king kind of like wants to use them, so they hide them? Yeah.
On what it is.
Are.
Yeah, I don't think like the king really cares if you're a grace like painter or, you know,
baker or something like that.
This is a series. Now, they probably used to say like, oh, you don't have to read it in a specific order, but the newer ones all kind of involve one person as a side character at least. So I'd say read these in order. I love all the ones I've read so far. Just keep in mind, you know, this is the dystopian era. These are not dystopian books, but the writing is juvenile, in my opinion.
Like more middle grade kind of.
Do I love it? Absolutely. But
and you can fly through it too.
Yes, it is perfect if you know, still want a little fantasy, but you don't want to like take notes on it like Brandon Sanderson. Okay, yeah. Weigh your options.
And
this is like okay, I just finished reading this. I still am in my fantasy era because of this, but I need something that doesn't hurt my brain. This. You see what I'm saying? It's YA. I see. Expect YA.
Appreciate
it. There you go. I read this first when I was 12, and I gave it 5 stars. Now I gave it 4.
That's fair.
So, yeah.
Okay. That's all we got.
Unfortunately, all we got.
May's gonna be better. I can feel it.
I don't feel it.
I've already read 2 books this month. I'm proud of myself.
I finished one.
It's okay. You got time. You got time. Okay. that concludes our April wrap-up. We hope that we can be more consistent now that things are starting to slightly get back to normal. And hopefully we will try to put up one video a week.
Yes. Until the summer. Then we can reevaluate.
So let us know in the comments what your favorite book you read in the month of April was. And let us know if you've read any of the books we mentioned. And that's all. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.